Yes, we're launching a tiny shuttle in Kerbal Space Program 2, and no, this is not how you should behave. No, stop it, stop spinning. Well, I guess I have to save the orbiter if I can. And yes, it glides rather well. Well, I didn't expect that, honestly. Can it land? Yay! But... again! Hello everybody, and welcome! If you have been watching my channel for a while, you might remember these two beauties, the Microshuttles, the version 1, the bigger one, and the version 2, the a lot smaller one I did in Kerbal Space Program 1. The tiniest one was a bit over 700 kilograms, so it was really small. And yes, it was fully functional. I could deliver a payload to low Kerbal orbit, and yes, it could also perform an unassisted landing, meaning gliding down to the runway. So, can we replicate this in Kerbal Space Program 2? So yeah, you can see me here fast forwarding through the build that I did. And the thing that I was interested the most was the new payload base in Kerbal Space Program 2. You can see me here experimenting with some new parts, and then I was just adding this here, but I was adding it horizontally, so it was kind of making up the... basically it was the entire hull of the spacecraft, or... yeah, spacecraft, not... well, space plane. Anyhow. So this can house something that's almost 1.5 meters wide, and I was contemplating what type of propulsion I should get it. The original Microshuttle in KSP-1 had a single engine, and it was capable of flying on its own. So, but it was not really like the real space shuttle that only had like monopropellant and only the OMS. So maybe I can do it this way, but I then don't have I can't add those huge engines in the back, because then it won't be micro anymore. A lot of things I had to think about, but you can see me here developing some kind of miniature satellite that I put in the payload bay, even with some communications equipment, etc. And yeah, then there was the decision what to do for propellant, and it turns out that these tiny spherical monopropellant tanks are, well, smaller. And since the theme of that build is keeping everything as small as possible, I went with just 2 linear thrusters and then removed those 4 liquid fuel engines later. And now we can use the new procedural wings to finally create this 750 kilograms of orbiter. Well, if that's not a tiny shuttle, I don't know what is. So can we get this thing flying? Here is my first attempt of a stack, so to speak. So I put some engines offset on the main tank, so it would kind of mimic the optics of the real shuttle. And then those solid fuel boosters are just the Separatrons added to some empty fuel tanks. And, well, you saw the spinneroonie I did in the beginning. That was my very first attempt, because the engine alignment was all out of whack. And here we get into a decent suborbital trajectory, but unfortunately, this did not have enough energy, or not enough delta V, to get into a final orbit. You can see here, that's not going to work. So, again, yes, I made it bigger. I enlarged the central fuel tank, and I added even more Separatrons to the so-called solid rocket boosters. Since there are no extra small solid rocket boosters, I kind of had to fake that. But yeah, it kind of worked out a little bit, but not really, because again, as before, we did not reach orbit. It was a little bit better. You can see on the bottom left corner that I only had minus 300,000 meters inside the planet, but still. Again. Yes, we are now in a lot more... yeah. Should have checked that staging, shouldn't I? Well, you know what that means. Again. Yes, and here's the next attempt, and completely in the beginning, the engine alignment is out of whack. Again! Yes. Now we're getting somewhere. A at least in sort of a straight line. You can see maybe that the engine plume is a lot more angled than before, and that's why it actually worked. So here we go, look at that, beautiful! We are watching this footage, by the way, at I think 2 times regular speed. I sped it up a little bit to get the still present lag in the game a bit under control. But I heard that maybe the next patch that should come out next week, sometime maybe, will make things better. Next week meaning around June 20th, 2023, for whenever you're watching that video. Anyway, and look at that, we are now finally in orbit, and Jebediah Kerman is happy as can be. Well, he's always happy, I think. He is just that way. So yeah, we're spinning around, we're checking everything out, everything looks to be in order. So then it is time, of course, to get our payload out of there. So opening the payload bay, and then releasing our microsat. Where is it? Come on, get out there. Yeah, if you're wondering, because you see here that the separator is also being removed, I tried this with the regular stack decoupler that would remain inside the vehicle, and then things went wrong. There are still some bugs in this game, of course, since it's still early access, very early access. And yeah, so using the decouplers or the stack separators that also separate from the craft and don't stick onto it is a lot more safe than using the regular decouplers. But you can see me here using the rest of my monopropellant, the tiny bits that are left if you have watched the top on the right, to get into a descent trajectory. And here we're using our wings to bleed off even more velocity. And yes, Jebediah is enjoying himself again a lot with his shiny new toy. It really does look like a toy plane, doesn't it? Alright, speeding up through the descent process, because this was actually quite a long time, because since the vehicle basically only consists of wings and doesn't weigh anything, it was bleeding velocity like immediately after entering the atmosphere. So I even had to point the nose downward to get a bit more speed going on to get finally down to the surface. And here's where we almost are. So we're almost through the cloud layer, which is about 3,000 meters above ground, something like that. I forget these type of things. And now we're already seeing some trees. I have to admit, when I was recording this shot kind of gave me anxiety because I couldn't really gauge how far I was away from the ground. And now with our minuscule landing gear, why does it work with just 2? Yes, it does work, as you can see. How does it work with just 2 and they're angled? Well, there is a reaction wheel in there somewhere. And I'm basically using the reaction wheel to stabilize this even on just 2 wheels. Otherwise, if I hadn't that reaction wheel, it would be completely impossible to keep that position as it is now. I mean, it looks cool, like some kind of weird bird on kind of cross legs or something. Anyway, as you can see, I didn't bother to get back to the runway because I just wanted to show you that, yes, this thing works, and it works in Kerbal Space Program 2 as well, and it's almost as light as my lightest version I did in KSP1. So, hey, that's actually great, and yeah, what do you think? What's the tiniest spacecraft you have built in Kerbal Space Program, or Kerbal Space Program 2 for that matter? Comment below, let me know, and we'll see each other in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel for more and follow me on my social thingies. The links are in the description. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.